The phone buzzed against my thigh at 2:17 a.m. and the screen lit up with a single line from Sarah. Still up? Thinking about tomorrow. Tomorrow was the day she flew to Denver for a girls' weekend with 2 college friends and, she'd mentioned offhand, her ex, Connor. My stomach folded in on itself like wet paper. I stared at the message until the letters blurred, then typed back, "Yeah, just packing your vitamins," because that was the kind of thing a supportive fiancé says at 2 in the morning. She sent a heart emoji and went dark. I lay there in the blue glow, listening to the hum of the refrigerator downstairs, wondering why the word tomorrow tasted metallic on my tongue. We'd been together 4 years, engaged for 6 months, and I'd never once checked her phone. Not out of saintliness, just trust, the kind you don't question until it starts breathing funny. Sarah was the woman who cried at rescue dog commercials and kept a running note on her phone titled, "Reasons Alex is Better Than Pizza." I was the guy who proposed on a Tuesday night in the kitchen because the ring had been burning a hole in my sock drawer for 3 weeks. We were solid. We were the couple friends pointed to and said, "See? That's how it's done." So why did the idea of her boarding a plane with Connor feel like watching someone load a gun I'd handed them? The next morning she kissed me goodbye in the driveway, coffee breath and coconut shampoo, promising to FaceTime from the hotel. "4 days, babe," she said, squeezing my hand. Then we're back to cake tastings and seating charts. I smiled so hard my cheeks cramped. The Uber pulled away and I stood there waving like an idiot until the taillights disappeared. Inside, the house sounded hollow, every footstep echoing like it was announcing my own stupidity. That night she called from the airport bar. Her voice had that loose, happy lilt that usually came after 2 margaritas. "Connor says hi, by the way," she laughed. "He's horrified we're making him wear salmon at the wedding." I pictured him, tall, easy grin, the kind of guy who still looked good in Patagonia. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. "Tell him Coral's slimming," I managed. She snorted, then lowered her voice. "You okay? You sound weird." I told her I was tired, that the office had been hell. She bought it, or pretended to. Before she hung up she said, "Don't be insecure, Alex. It's just a trip." The word insecure lodged in my throat like a fishbone. I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I opened her laptop to grab our flight itinerary for the honeymoon, Venice, 2 weeks after the wedding, and her messages app was still logged in, mirrored from her phone. The preview pane showed a thread with Connor. The last text, time-stamped 20 minutes earlier, was a selfie of them cheek to cheek at the gate, captioned, "Old Habits." Below it, a string of older messages I couldn't unsee, her telling him she missed the way he used to trace circles on her hip when they watched movies, him replying that some nights he still reached for her side of the bed, her sending a voice note that said, "I love Alex, I do, but it's different with you, like coming home after being gone too long." My pulse hammered so hard I felt it in my teeth. I scrolled up until the words smeared. There were no naked pictures, no hotel plans, just this slow, corrosive drip of nostalgia that made me feel like a placeholder. I sat on the floor of our study, back against the couch we'd picked out together at IKEA, and cried without sound, the way you do when you don't want the neighbors to hear. Part of me wanted to forward everything to myself, build a case, confront her with screenshots like some courtroom drama. Instead I closed the lid, went to the kitchen, and drank orange juice straight from the carton until my stomach hurt. Then I opened my laptop again and canceled the venue, the band, the florist. Every confirmation email felt like signing divorce papers we hadn't even spoken yet. She landed in Denver at noon. I was on a flight 2 hours later, one-way, aisle seat, clutching a boarding pass I'd bought with the emergency credit card. The whole way I rehearsed speeches, some furious, some pleading, one that simply asked why she hadn't just left if Connor was the sun she orbited. Turbulence rattled the plane and I gripped the armrest, imagining her face when she saw me at baggage claim. I spotted her before she saw me. She stood by Carousel 3 in jeans and the sweater I'd given her last Christmas, laughing at something Connor said. He had his hand on the small of her back, casual as breathing. When her eyes met mine the laughter died mid-syllable. The suitcase handle slipped from her fingers and clattered. Connor followed her gaze, registered me, and took one polite step away, like a man who just remembered he left the stove on. "Alex." Her voice cracked on the second syllable. She looked smaller suddenly, swallowed by the airport noise. I walked forward until we were a foot apart. People streamed around us like water around rocks. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. But I already know. Her face cycled through emotions so fast it was dizzying. Confusion, recognition, guilt, panic. It's not, she started, then stopped, because what wasn't it? Connor cleared his throat and muttered something about giving us space. He walked off toward the exit, hands in his pockets, the posture of someone who'd won a prize he no longer wanted. Sarah's eyes filled. I didn't sleep with him. Maybe not this weekend, I said. The words tasted like rust. But you've been sleeping with the idea of him for months. I read the messages, Sarah. Every single one. She pressed her knuckles to her mouth. I was going to tell you. After the wedding. I thought. She swallowed. I thought if we just got through it, the feeling would fade. Like a last hurrah. A last hurrah, I repeated. The phrase hung between us, obscene in its cheerfulness. I'm the hurrah you settle for? No, she whispered. You're the life I want. He's the life I survived. A tear tracked down her cheek, taking mascara with it. I got scared. Cold feet doesn't cover it. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff and remembering how good the fall used to feel. I wanted to shake her. I wanted to hold her. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the engagement ring, her ring, wrapped in the receipt from the jeweler. I'd carried it the whole flight like a talisman. I pressed it into her palm. I canceled everything, I said. Venue returned the deposit. Your dress is still at the alterations place if you want to sell it. She stared at the ring like it might bite her. Alex, please. We can fix this. I don't think we can. My voice finally broke. Because every time you say you love me now, I'll hear the part where you said it's different with him. And I deserve mornings where I don't wake up measuring myself against a ghost. Around us, families reunited, businessmen scrolled phones, a toddler wailed over a lost balloon. Our little apocalypse played out in fluorescent light and the smell of pretzels. Sarah closed her fist around the ring. I'm so sorry, she said, and the sorrow sounded real, but sorrow wasn't enough anymore. I turned to leave. She called my name once, soft, like a question she already knew the answer to. At the automatic doors I paused, the Colorado cold rushing in, and looked back. She hadn't moved, a lone figure beside a motionless carousel, suitcase forgotten. I thought of the note on her phone, reasons Alex is better than pizza, and wondered if she'd delete it tonight or read it like a suicide note. Outside, the sky was the color of dishwater. I hailed a cab to a hotel I'd booked under a fake name, the kind of place that didn't ask questions. In the room I sat on the bed fully clothed and stared at the ring indentation on my finger, a pale circle that would tan over eventually. My phone buzzed, texts from her, from my mom, from the best man asking about the rehearsal dinner. I turned it off. Hours later, hunger finally dragged me downstairs. In the lobby vending area, I ran into Connor. He stood by the ice machine in running clothes, filling a bucket. Our eyes met and he flinched like I'd swung at him. I'm not going to hit you, I said. I wouldn't blame you if you did. He set the bucket down. For what it's worth, I told her not to marry you if she wasn't sure. That's big of you. He shrugged, miserable. I loved her once. Maybe still do. But I'm not the answer either. She knows that. He picked up the ice again. You're a better man than me, Alex. I hope you find someone who never makes you fly across the country to prove it. He walked away. I bought a stale honey bun and ate it in the stairwell, crumbs on my shirt like dandruff. Later, I stood under the shower until the hot water gave out, trying to wash off the smell of airplane and heartbreak. It clung anyway. The next morning, I changed my flight home. On the plane, I sat next to an old woman reading a paperback with a cracked spine. Halfway through the flight, she patted my hand. Whoever she is, she said, she's not the last chapter. I almost laughed. Strangers always think they know. Back in our apartment, I packed her things into the boxes we'd saved for moving after the honeymoon. I left her sweater on the bed, the one from Christmas, because it still smelled like her and I wasn't ready to erase that yet. The ring I mailed to her parents with a note that said, "She'll need this more than I will." Weeks slid by. Friends stopped asking questions after the first stunned, "I'm sorry." I ran every morning until my lungs burned, cooked meals for one, learned the quiet wasn't empty, it was honest. One night I opened the note app on my phone and started a new list, reasons to get up tomorrow. Number 1 was coffee. Number 2 was the way the light hits the kitchen table at 7:03 a.m. By the time I hit 20, I realized the list wasn't about her absence, it was about my presence. Sarah texted once, 3 months later, "I'm in therapy. I understand now what I broke. I don't expect forgiveness, just wanted you to know I'm trying to be someone who deserves it someday." I stared at the message a long time, then typed back, "Be kind to the next guy. He'll need it." I blocked her number after that, not out of spite, but because some doors have to stay closed for the air to circulate. I kept the apartment, painted the bedroom a color she hated, soft green, like new leaves. On the first anniversary of what would have been our wedding day, I hiked to the ridge where I'd planned to take our engagement photos. The city sprawled below, oblivious. I took out my phone, opened the camera, and snapped a selfie. Just me, windburned, smiling the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes yet but is trying. I captioned it, "Still here," and posted it publicly for the first time in a year. The likes trickled in, mostly from people who didn't know the story. One comment, from my sister, said simply, "Proud of you." Standing there with cold air slicing through my jacket, I understood something I couldn't have in the airport baggage claim. Love isn't a debt you pay off with suffering. It's a gift you give because you can, not because you must. Sarah taught me where my edges were by cutting me open. The scar is mine now, and it doesn't itch as much anymore. Trust is a house you build board by board, but the blueprint has to come from inside you first.